experience is priceless, and you've got a bukus of that, guys. There's no excuse next time. We've been there. We have seen the negative side. We've seen some positive. But we've got to get better. And if 3-7 doesn't make you think that, then you're blind. Where does it start? It starts in the off season. You now can control what happens to you from here on. You can't. It's over and done. 3-7 was there. Now, what are we going to do about it?
Coming off of a frustrating season in 1998 of 3-7, our players, our coaching staff, our entire program knew we had to get stronger, more physical, play with greater intensity. In order to play that way, you've got to physically be strong, you've got to be comfortable with yourself so that you can have the confidence to execute. And in 1999, we wanted to make sure that we would be a stronger ball club, we would be returning more experienced people, but the bottom line, we had to work harder in the weight room. Workouts needed to be quality efforts. We didn't need people going through the motions. We needed a good, solid commitment that when you're in the weight room, it's going to be all work, no play. To help emphasize that, as a coaching staff, we instituted a rule of 80% attendance. If a young man was not out for another sport and they were in the weight room, they were expected to be there 80% of the days. And to complement our players, we had 20-some players that achieved and exceeded the 80% rule. Some also had some makeup work to get close. They were close enough, but they did some makeup work to help get to that point. But we had people also with 100% attendance, which I thought was an outstanding effort and showed the character of our ball club. We highlighted the off-season preparation with a max-out celebration in the practice gym to showcase our results. We invited parents and the community, and I thought had a great night. Kids were really motivated, they were really pumped, and were enthusiastic towards each other's efforts. Several lifting records were established, and we had taken a giant step, I thought, in getting stronger and getting ourselves prepared for 1999. Shortly thereafter, we hosted the Mid-Mo Conference weightlifting meet, and we won that meet for the first time in school history, which I thought was further evidence of our improvement that we had accomplished in the off-season. On behalf of the coaching staff, I know myself as well as all of them are very proud of the overall effort our players displayed, and our 10 seniors did a great job of providing us with the leadership that we needed to create the work environment in the weight room. And one of the best ways to do that is obviously to take care of yourself and make sure you personally are doing the job. And I thought each of our seniors came through with that effort and firmly established that what took place in 1998 would not be repeated, and that 99 would be a great year. we began the year with a solid performance on the home front as we shut out the Parkview Vikings 28-0. It was a great, solid defensive effort with the catalyst being Matt Bond and Travis Carr and Chris Cook. All three had great games and accounted for 7 tackles each. And offensively, we had a pretty well-balanced attack. In fact, Brett Bell, I think, had his best passing night of the year with 138 yards. But the true explosiveness of the Bulldog offense was not apparent yet, but it was a solid effort in all respects. This very well could have been our best game of the year. Boy, what a difference a year makes. After a very poor showing in Branson last year, we exploded for 401 total yards offense. Sean Wells rushed for the 5th best rushing performance of an athlete at Rolla High School with 256 yards. He had 4 touchdowns. Brett Bell continued to throw the ball well and connected with Kyle Whitmire on an 80-yard touchdown. So offensively, we erased the bad memories of the previous meeting with Branson, but defensively we were still challenged. We improved, but we failed to stop the big play potential of Branson. They broke on some long runs, but we did have some very good defensive effort. Tony Dobson had a great game. Steve Wells had a great game, and they forced 4 turnovers, which certainly helped put our offense in good situations on several occasions. But we also gave up 4 turnovers of our own, and that probably spelled the difference in the ball game, as we just didn't hang on the football. But the Bulldogs really improved from the '98 meeting with Branson, but fell a little short on the scoreboard.
The Branson game was the second week of the season, and coming off our loss to them last year, 48-0, we felt like we had something to prove at home against them. They've got a good tradition, a great program, and they're regulars in the 4A playoffs. We jumped out to an early lead, and we were actually leading by 14 points in the first half, and it seems like maybe we just couldn't sustain that for the entire game, but that was really the first game that Sean Wells had a big game for us. Coming off the Parkview win, I think maybe he had 150 yards rushing, but we got a real glimpse of what Sean could do in the Branson game. He had 21 carries for 256 yards and 4 touchdowns. And the thing that really sticks out in my mind there is that we were stuck back at our own 3-yard line, and we ran an isolation play with Sean off the left side, and he took it 97 yards for a touchdown. And that was really an exciting play, and got the fans into the game, and that was really a glimpse of some things that Sean could do over the course of a year. And it also was a game where Steve Wells at halfback, a sophomore, really had a good game. He only had 6 carries, but he got tough yards, and we saw that he could run the ball hard. And the best thing about Steve is that he's very coachable, and that he did a great job blocking in that game as well.
I thought the Branson game was real important to us as an offensive line in the fact that they had shut us down the year before, 48-0, and this is the game that I think we opened a few people's eyes. We ended up gaining 290 yards in rushing and had a total of 401 yards in total offense. Thought the offensive line for the first time began to click. We were coming off the ball, maintaining blocks. Overall, it was a very good effort by us, and it was a sign of some of the good things to come.
Might be the best football game I've seen us play in 3 years. There wasn't quit one out there, man. Not one time. Guys, you have just taken a giant leap.
The Glendale ball game was as though there were 2 different games being played. Initially, we looked very sharp in all phases of the game, and all of a sudden we found it very difficult to do anything right. However, I do think of the first 3 ball games, this might have been the most solid defensive effort. I thought our defense did a great job. We jumped out to a 14-0 lead initially with some explosive running by Sean Wells. And the initial indications were that we were going to control the line of scrimmage and do a great job. But offensively, we simply sputtered from there on. And the defense, however, stepped up, forced some turnovers, kept us in the game. We simply could not to capitalize on things. And again, Sean Wells, Travis Ratliff, Travis Carr, Patrick Collins, and Tony Dobson all played well Defensively, Dobson and Collins came up with fumble recoveries, but this was probably the most solid defensive effort other than the shutout of Parkview of the year. And it's just offensively we could not manage to get control of the line of scrimmage, and thus an early lead faded, and we faced another loss, and it was the first road trip of the year, and all of that added up to a little bit of trouble, but it was a tough ball game, and they were a very good ball player. We returned home for the third time in 4 games to face Lebanon. Lebanon is a Mid-Mo Conference foe, and obviously we were in pursuit of a conference title. It's the last year the Mid-Mo Conference will be in existence as we know it, and we came out in front of a very good hometown crowd. They were really revved up. We had a lot of great support throughout the season, but especially this night, and our offensive line really began to show some prominence. Opening up some great holes. Our running backs did an outstanding job. Sean had his first 300-yard rushing performance of his career, and Kyle Whitmire caught another touchdown pass and also kicked his only field goal of the year. But we managed to explode for 37 points, and our defense did a great job. They held Lebanon to less than 100 yards rushing, which is not an easy feat. And then also the potent aerial attack of the Yellow Jackets was held to only 39% completion rate. So it was a good, solid effort on both sides of the ball. We also had some very good special team performances, and the Dogs were off to a good, solid Mid-Mo showing, and we're in hot pursuit of another conference title.
Game was a very good game for us up front. And it was an important game. This is the last year of the Mid-Mo Conference, and it was the opening of this last season in the Mid-Mo. The Lebanon team came in with a fairly decent team, pretty good up front from what we had seen on film. So we were expecting a hard-fought game, and the kids responded. I would say we pretty much dominated the trench on them. Offensively, the running backs were able to gain 383 yards, and anytime you can rush for that amount, then you've had a very good night. Once again, the key is the kids playing with consistency, coming off the ball, staying on their blocks, and allowing Sean and Steve and Brian and the other kids that are carrying the mail to be able to hit a hole and then make things happen using their natural abilities. It was an exciting game for us. It was step one in the road to the championship in the last Mid-Mo Conference.
This weekend, let's enjoy it. Guys, get prepared because we got another game.
Well, anytime Rolla and Waynesville get together, you can expect a tough ball game, a physical affair. In 1999, found to be the same way, and it was a night of a lot of excitement, but it was also a night of many frustrations. But once again, as we had found throughout the previous games in the season, we had the lead and were not able to hold it. Sean Wells did a great job of running the football again. Defensively, I thought we played a solid game, except maybe on one drive late in the ball game. But it was a situation where we had opportunities offensively early in the game, just simply didn't come through on key down and key play situations, and we gave them too many opportunities. We sat on a 14-7 lead for a long period of time, and And against an explosive ball club with the explosive talent that Waynesville has, you simply cannot give them that many opportunities. We needed to put another score on the board, and we didn't. As a result, we kept pressuring our defensive unit, and eventually Waynesville mustered up a drive towards the end of the game and tried a field goal with about 40 seconds to go. And we had a partial block of the field goal and a questionable call, which did determine the outcome of the ball game because it gave them a first and goal, and they ended up scoring. The thing we were hoping for there was that with the blocked field goal that we'd have an opportunity to take the game into overtime and let our players solve it in overtime. But it was a mid-mode conference loss. It was a bitter loss, but we were still in the conference race because we know with the balanced ball clubs that we have in the conference this year that it was going to be up for grabs and that probably no one would go undefeated, and so we felt like we were still in pretty good shape. We would love to have had that victory. This was a great ball game, had a tremendous setup with the conference race down to a conclusion for us with 3 straight conference games in a row. This was also homecoming, and today was a very talented ball club with the explosive potential, and the game really indicated all those factors. We played solidly, rushed the ball for almost 300 yards. Sean had 245 yards and 4 TDs. Another super effort on his part, which obviously is a credit to his offensive line and his fellow backs that blocked very well for him. Defensively, played in spurts, a little inconsistent, some poor tackling here and there, but a lot of that was due to good running backs and good skill players for Sadea who certainly fought with everything they had that night and made it a very tough physical ball game. But we managed to finish it up with a win and went to 2-1 in the Mid-Mo Conference and set ourselves up to at least get a share of the title. And one of the key plays in the ball game came on the defensive side of the field when Sean Wells was pursuing their quarterback down the sideline on the bleacher side of the stadium, and the kid was apparently going in for a touchdown, and Sean stripped the ball and punched it out, and it was recovered in the end zone by the Bulldogs and ended up turning a situation where they should have had 6 points into a touchback and our ball at the 20 going the other way. So a big momentum switch in the ball game that occurred in the latter stages of the third quarter, and it came from the defensive side of the ball.
Our game with Sedalia Smith Cotton this year was a homecoming. It was a game where we had a chance to win the conference championship, or at least be in a position where we would win 2 out of 3 games. And then, as we found out later, we shared the championship with Lebanon. Sedalia was a game where, as running backs, I thought we did a real good job. Sean Wells had 33 attempts, which is the most carries that he ever had in his career. 33 attempts for 245 yards and 4 touchdowns. It's also a game where Steve Wells did a good job running the ball, and Brian Bennett got one of his first starts at fullback. And over the last couple of years, Brian has been a halfback for us, and he's always done a good job. And, not really a breakaway threat, but he hits the hole quickly, and he'll do what you ask him to do. He's very coachable. And this year we had an injury to our fullback, and Brian had to step over to the fullback position. He really did a good job, and we feel like he really continued to improve week by week as he played that position.
It wasn't pretty, gentlemen. It wasn't pretty. We got a lot of damn work to do. So there's going to be some hell to raise on Monday. Okay? We got 3. Ready? Team! 1, 2, 3. Hoorah, hoorah, hey, hoorah, hoorah, hey, my bullets. Ladder! Hoorah, hoorah, hey, hoorah, hey, my bullets. Ladder! Hoorah, hoorah, hey, hoorah, hey, my bullets.
As the Bulldogs headed into the 7th week, we were at 3-3 and hoping to build some momentum as we headed into district play. And lo and behold, Kickapoo wanted to have a say in that, and certainly played exceptionally well. They probably played their best ball game of the year. Coach talked to us after the game, and it was just a night of frustration for us, offensively for the most part. We did not move the ball effectively. We lost field position. It was a windy night, and the wind was a factor on field position, and we did nothing to gain field position. And as a result, our defense always was backed up to the wall and had trouble. I thought at times they played well, but when you give a ball club as explosive as Kickapoo that many opportunities, they're going to sooner or later score, and they certainly did. It's the first time in a long time that we've been shut out, and I don't know exactly to what date, but it's a memory you want to forget and get rid of. But to credit our kids, it was probably one of the toughest teams we played all year.
Unfortunately, I would say the low point of the year for the offensive line was the Kickapoo game. We came out and really did not play very well. I don't want to take anything away from Kickapoo. They have a very fine football team, and just this past week I watched them move the ball on Jefferson City consistently. But on the other hand, we played as inconsistently and poorly as we possibly could that night. When you can hold a running back as fine as Sean to 39 yards rushing, you've had a very good night.
In week 8, as we headed to Union, we were starting district play in District 3 of Class 4A. It was pivotal that we erased the memories of the previous week, and the players did an excellent job. I thought we had a great week of practice. We headed on the road to Union knowing that everybody had a clean slate, and that we were going to face a ball club that had struggled early in the year, and we hope to continue their struggling. And defensively did an outstanding job. Basically had a shutout. We allowed 7 points at the end of the game as the reserves were playing, but defensively we held them to around 150 yards total offense, which is a very good feat on the defensive side of the ball. And offensively, the Sean Wells show was evident again. He had 3 rushing touchdowns. He also had a touchdown on a punt return. Where it was just beautifully executed. Had a lot of key blocks from fellow players, and Kyle Whitmire caught a play-action pass from Brett Bell for a 55-yard touchdown. So once again, the explosive potential of our offense became evident, and